Okay, looks like we have everybody. So welcome to our AM 101, 2 days in a row. Today is once again the 2024 annual billing, and this time it's for people who use the Rapattoni system. This will also be recorded, and so please remain muted. We'll take questions at the end. If you would like to put your questions in the chat throughout, you can do that, and we'll take them all in the end. Nicole also has a colleague that will be watching the chat, so it's possible there may be an answer in there periodically. There are no slides for today's AM 101, so you will not be getting those. We always mention that you usually do. No slides, but it will be recorded so you can watch it over and over again as many times as you need. And with that, I would like to introduce everyone's favorite, Keesman Tramer.
Peggy. Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for joining us this morning. For some of us, this is
Hookah Shelf. I am going to text him.
Monique, can you mute?
I am.
You're not.
Thank you. So again, for some of us, this is our second dues billing training session, right? However, this training session was designed specifically for Rapattoni customers. This is definitely not a benefit that all associations get to have, right? Today, we have the privilege of having Nicole from Rapattoni walk us through the step-by-step process to update your system with the 2024 disclosures. The other benefit of having Rapattoni walk you through the step-by-step process is you will be in a more favorable position to pass the dues billing audit review process, which is, extremely important, right? So before we get started, Mariah is going to place a copy of the dues billing legal notice in the chat. And so Nicole will explain where that information needs to go while she's going through the training session. Also, again, if you have any questions, you can put those questions in the chat, and we will make sure that we get your questions answered as quickly as possible. And so at this time, I am going to turn it over to Nicole.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you again for attending this session. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to share the instructions. So this is an instructional document that you guys received from Mariah. And we're going to go ahead and cover all of this today to show you exactly where all these disclosures will go. So I just, first of all, by show of hands, everybody can see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Nods, great. Okay, so as Keesman pointed out, Mariah will be putting the dues disclosure, what we call invoice dash hyperlink, and I'll get to why we call it that, in the chat, so that you will need to go ahead and save this file to your computer. As I have here, make a note of where you saved it, because you're going to need to open this file. There are some items that you will need to modify, and the portion that you'll need to modify in that file is listed here. So, and this is going to be throughout the entire disclosure process. What this means is that first of all, if you have any lobbying for any lobbying percentage that is non-deductible, you're going to need to make sure that you go ahead and update that value. So here are the updated values for NAR and C.A.R. And then I've highlighted the portions in this disclosure that you need to update. So if you don't have any non-deductible lobbying or any portion that's non-deductible, then you can leave this as 0, and you can leave the total as 150 or 133.56. Now you want to make sure that you remove the highlighted portion, right? So remove the highlight from the text. The other portion is if you have if your RAF is 148 only, then you're going to need to update the highlighted $49 portions to 148. If you have 49 and 148 both listed as separate line items, then you don't need to remove the 49. You can leave 49, but please remove the highlighted text, okay? Once you've updated that portion in that disclosure, the legal disclosures file, then you're going to go ahead and need to save it. So when you open the file originally, you'll right click on it and choose open with, and you'll choose Microsoft Word. That will allow you to actually make changes to the document, right? If you just simply open it as an HTML document, it's not modifiable. So make sure you open it with Word, and then you can make these updates that you need to. Once you've made those changes, then you're going to need to save the file as an HTML document. So, and I would recommend keeping a copy, a Word document copy as well. When you choose to save it, you're going to choose what the file type is web page, and you'll see that from the dropdown under the Save As section. And when you save it, and again, make sure you make note of where you saved it, it should look something like this. So you're going to see this, just, you don't need to change the name or any of that, just leave it as is, but this is what it should look like wherever you save it. Okay. Now, after you've made your changes and you've saved it, we're going to need to go to the folder icon on your desktop. That folder icon, which is going to be near your Cloud AMS icons, so the ones you use to log into the software, you're going to open that particular folder, and you're going to navigate to the IMS folder and then the documents folder. Okay. So you want to make sure that you copy wherever this is saved locally, and then you're going to paste it into this documents folder. So when you've done so, it should look like this. So it should be here in this particular folder. For whatever reason on our servers, Edge is like the default browser. So don't get concerned when you see that and not the Google Chrome or whatever symbol here. It's going to be, it's fine. It's an HTML document, so you're fine. So that's all you need to do there for now for this one, okay? What you're going to need to do then is go ahead and navigate to your invoice type table, okay? So your invoice type table will have the different types of invoice types that you use. Now, in this example, and thank you, Sarita, I know you're on the call, I'm using Merced as an example. This is their invoice type table. Yours may look different, but you may have more or less invoice types, but navigate to the one that you use for dues. So here is membership dues, and you're going to want to go ahead and if whatever document or whatever verbiage you have in this field at the moment, go ahead and delete it. And you're going to go ahead and type in the name of the file exactly as you see it here. Okay. So go ahead and put that information in there, because now that we have the document saved, now we need to point to it. So that is what we will do in this field here. Okay. Then the next step that we want to do is in this same, I'm going to kind of scroll back up here 1 second. In this same IMS documents folder, you're going to have some of these HTML documents that look like this, that say the IMS contribution _ benefits. You should have at least this one here that is a generic, or even without the numbers here. You should have these two here. So you should have these files here. What we need to do is we need to create new ones for every contribution that you have available. So if you have your HAF and your RAF contributions, we need to create copies of these, and then open up those copies the same format that you would open the other document by right-clicking on them and choosing Open with Word. Okay, so we want to make sure that you open those up with Word, and then you're going to have it's going to look something like this when you open them up. So this is like our generic standard verbiage in these particular files. So you're going to go ahead and what you do, once you open them up, you're going to have there's two different verbiages down here for each of the contribution types. And again, and I'll probably repeat this throughout the actual presentation to make sure that you update the highlighted portions if you need to. So to make sure that not everybody will fall into the same category. So I just want to reiterate that if you need to make any changes, please make sure you do so. Again, if you only do the 148 for RAF, then you need to update each of these to 148 and remove the highlights. If you don't, and you have both, or you don't do both, either way, leave this as the 49 and remove the highlights on this text. So when you have the file open, right? You have the file open, let's say for what you want to modify the file for the RAF. You're going to make the changes that you need to, remove the highlighted text, and copy this information and paste it into the file, one of the copies that you've made. Okay. So once you've done that, then you're going to save that file the same as you're saving the legal disclosure. You're going to save it as an HTML document in this same folder. But what you're going to do is when you name it, you're going to put the charge code number, let's say for RAF, at the end of this file. So if your charge code in the instance of Merced, their charge code for RAF is 2440. So you want to make sure you put 2440 at the end of the file and then save it. You'll do the exact same thing for the file that you're going to have for the HAF. Again, putting the charge code number at the end. And when you open it, you're going to copy this text down here for the HAF and paste it into that file and save it as the HTML document. So what you'll see there then at the end is you're going to have your two files in here, which is what you want. Again, if you have a third, then you'd have a third, right? But all of them will have the charge code number at the end. So this is kind of what it should look like if you only have the two charge codes that should exist in your IMS documents folder. Okay. All right. So the next step that we're going to go to is in the invoice type table again. So there's several places, throughout the system that we're actually going to put this information. So this particular one, the contribution disclosure on HTML form, this is the disclosure that will show when the agent checks the box to pay the invoice and moves on to the next screen. And by the way, I am going to go ahead and open IMS, and I will kind of, what I would do is I'm going to go through this document first, and then I'm going to open up their member portal /IMS and show you kind of, go back and forth a little bit to show you exactly where these will show up. But for now, I just want to kind of run through the document so you guys get an idea of where these things will be. So this particular disclosure is going to show up when they, on the form on IMS where they actually can contribute, okay? So again, with the disclosures about whether or not you need to change any of these dollar amounts here, okay? And with the lobbying, if you have any local portion that is, for the non-deductible, then you need to update this, and then make sure you update the total, because if your dollar amount is greater than 0, then this total will also change, okay? Once you've done all of that, you can go ahead and, make the updates and remove the highlights. The other item that you're going to need to do in this disclosure is this, the file, that legal document or the legal disclosure that Mariah put in the chat. Once you've made those updates again, you're going to need to make sure you save that particular file somewhere on your website. Okay, so somewhere on your website that is public facing, meaning that if we click on a link, that document should open up right away. So what I've done in the past, and I feel like is the easiest way to do this, because everybody's links could be really long depending on, what your website name is, et cetera, et cetera. There's a freeware or a free program called tinyurl, and I put the link here that you can use. Whenever you've saved that file to your website, you can go ahead and go to that location. Once you click on the link to go to the legal disclosure for your association, you'll have a long URL at the top. So you're going to copy that URL that you created, and you'll go to this website, tinyurl, and you can go ahead and paste that long URL in the top portion. And then there's a button there that says, it's a link that says, click here to, click on this button, and it will give you a shortened version of it. So when it gives you the shortened version, you're just going to copy that shortened version, and you're going to paste it right into this section where it shows here, insert your local association's link where legal notices will be posted. So you can get rid of the brackets, you can get rid of all of that text and the highlighted portion, or the highlights, and then just insert that URL. Okay, so that way it will be a link that they can click on, that they can, copy, paste, whatever. It allows you to be able to have that, again, on your website so that at any point, anybody can go ahead and click it and see the full disclosure. Okay. All right. Now, the next section here is this contribution disclosure on invoice. So this particular disclosure will appear when they click on the invoice, when they click on the, when they go to print the PDF. So there's a PDF that there's an icon on IMS where next to the link to the invoice, where they can click on the PDF to bring it up, to print it, save it, do whatever they want with it. So this is where that's going to appear. So again, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. So all the highlighted portions are the portions that you're going to modify if need be, right? Once you've done that, go ahead and remove the highlights, copy this entire portion, right? From here down. I've kind of tried to separate where you're actually supposed to copy and paste by making this italicized and kind of just making it so it is an instruction instead of part of the actual verbiage. And it's a smaller font, so hopefully that helps everybody. But you'll copy all of this, and you'll go ahead and in this particular field here, you're just going to delete whatever's in there, right? You'll delete whatever's in there first, and then you'll go ahead and paste it. Okay. And the final step for adding the disclosures is going to be in the print statements and invoices program. Okay. So the print statements and invoices program is going to be where you have your statement/invoice set up that you use for annual dues billing. So in this instance, we have an annual dues invoice set up, right? That is used, throughout the years. But we're going to go ahead and where you can zoom on this field. So the F5 on this field, it'll take you to the list that you have. Click on the one that you use, click the advanced setup button, and then on the tabs, click the messages tab. So for this example, there is one sentence here at the top that is specific to each association. So for Merced, they have verbiage here that is updated and has been updated down here below, but this is what they have in the beginning of the message. If your message is a little larger, just make sure that your disclosure is not cut off. If you can keep it as brief as possible, that's probably best. You don't want to cut off any of the disclosure. So you want to make sure that whatever you put in here, when you have your verbiage, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom of this field, or this box, I should say, and you can see the bottom of the disclosure. Just make sure that it's there in its entirety, and you're fine. Again, make sure that you update the highlighted portions. You're also going to insert that association link here, or that link, that tiny URL that you created at the top, right, for the other disclosure. You can also insert that down here. So it might be a good idea, because you have your own copy of these instructions, is to go through this entire instructional document first and make all your updates at once, right? Go through and make sure everything is updated, remove all the highlights, do all of that, and then go into Rapattoni and start copying and pasting these disclosures. So that way you have it all done at one time. No need to worry about coming back and forth or jumping around. So that might make the most sense for any of you guys out there to do that. So again, you're making those changes. You'll go ahead and copy the entire thing, right, from here down. And then you'll go ahead and here in this same exact spot, and you will delete everything out of that box, and you will paste in everything that you just copied. And I put here, this sentence is specific to each association, so you guys know. I left it in here as an example of what you might want to use. Your dates might be different, but if you want to use this example, feel free. So those are all the places that need to be, where this disclosure needs to be entered. So I'm going to jump over to the software here so I can show you, and I'm going to kind of pull my other document over here so I can follow along on this side. So in the invoice type table, I'm going to go ahead and show you from the top of the document. So again, here is that location where you would update for the where the contributions are showing up. Okay, here is where you have it for the when you click on the PDF icon. So that's when you're going to get that information. And then in the print statements and invoices, and I'm going to zoom here. And then on our annual dues invoice, event setup, and the messages tab. Now, if you have specific messages for bill types, you're going to want to make sure that you add that to every bill type. I don't know how many of you do that, but if you need to, then please make sure you do that if you have more than one message per bill type. If you don't, and it looks like this, then you just have to update it in this one spot. Okay. And now I'm going to jump over to the member portal. And I might have been logged out, so let me just make sure. No, I wasn't logged out. Okay, great. I'm going to go back to our main page. All right, so when you log in, and again, for Lisa Edwards, you all know, and well, for those of you that don't know, there will need to be some type of a test invoice or something that's created, and you give the login credentials to Lisa so that she can come into your portal and she can check all of the disclosures and make sure that they all exist. Okay. So when you first log in, you're going to go ahead and click, she's going to go ahead and click the Pay Now. So when we click Pay Now, we're going to go through each of these. So looking at you have the document in front of you, the instructions. So what you're going to do, or what we're going to cover is each of these items one by one. So the disclosure on the hyperlink, right? So this was that step where we saved that disclosure file, and then we linked it in the invoice type table to the box next to where it says disclosure file name in the invoice type table. Okay. So when I click on the hyperlink to the invoice here, this is where you see that large disclosure. Okay. And again, so for Merced, they don't have any lobbying, local lobbying. So these totals are correct, but I went ahead and made sure, to remove the highlighted portion, of course, but here's the entire disclosure. So that's where you're going to see this particular disclosure. Now, if I want to print the PDF, this is the section where we have it, that's in the box below the section that says contribution disclosure on invoice, maximum 7,500 characters. Okay, so that's where you're going to see this particular disclosure. So when I print this PDF, that is where this disclosure exists. And you can see down here, see when I hover over this hyperlink, I've gone ahead and done this. We've gone ahead and saved the file on Merced's website, and we've created the link to this disclosure. So if I click this, and it may pop up on another screen, and if not, okay, great. So here you can see when I click that link, it automatically opens it up to the location on her website, right? So it has to be something public facing so that when you click on it, it does open. Okay, it can't be behind any kind of password protection or any of that. Right? All right, go back to the previous screen. And I'm going to check the box to pay now. And I'm going to choose payment options. So this section right here, this comes from the box underneath the label heading of contribution disclosure on HTML form, maximum 1,500 characters. So this is where that particular item comes from. Okay. Now I used a little bit of HTML code to create this as the word here instead of the tiny URL. And I'm hoping that you guys, as I hover over this, in the very bottom left-hand corner, you can see the actual hyperlink there. So you should see that where it says tiny URL and gives that particular link. I created this and I can, anybody that would like to have that to say the word here, go ahead and email support@rapattoni.com. I can give you, the code to do so, or I may just actually give it to Mariah and have her, when she sends out the recap of all of this, at some point with maybe even with a copy of the recorded webinar, I'll just give it's just a couple of tags on the other side of the URL and with the word here kind of in quotation marks. So it just looks a little cleaner. Either way is going to work because it's going to be a hyperlink. So the same kind of concept, if you click here, it's going to do the same thing and open up that disclosure. Okay. Now, here are the two sections where they can modify the dollar amounts. So for each of these, this was that step in the very beginning of the document or second step in the document where we have those generic files in that IMS documents folder that you need to update with the proper verbiage. So for RAF, I'm going to click modify here. So this is the RAF disclosure. Now I didn't need to change the $49 because theirs is $49. If yours is $148, you should see $148 here. If you have both, again, just leave it as $49. But this is where you'll see that particular disclosure. And this is where they can make modifications. If they want to, contribute more, then they can modify it, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm going to click on this modify link, and that's going to be for the HAF, right? So nothing needed to be updated in the HAF. Everything here is generic across the board. So this didn't need to be modified at all, but this is where you're going to see that particular document. Okay. Now, in terms of your actual dues billing, right? Any of you out there that have not actually done a dues billing at all, or may have questions along the way, we are definitely available for you guys. If you need to schedule a one-on-one billing training, I would request that you send an email to support@rapattoni.com. And we're going to take those on a first come, first served kind of basis. If you have questions along the way, like for a particular step or whatever it is, you can either email, again, support@rapattoni.com, or you can call our support line, which is 866-730-7115. And we're happy to help you with any steps along the way. Another thing I wanted to point out in Magic, in Rapattoni, is there are what we call billing procedures. So if you start typing in the word billing, we do have a billing procedures section here. And under the annual dues billing, we have quite a bit of the steps necessary to actually run through your billing. A lot of these are, they're transferable across the board. Some may have updates on them that our staff have done for you over the years. But most of these are generic to most of our customers. So if you wanted to start, if you haven't done billing before and you want to have a starting point, this would be a good place to start. Okay. I think at this point, I've pretty much covered everything on the document and where everything should go and what your responsibilities are for making updates within those documents, within the disclosures, the different sections. We've covered IMS and where each of these things will lie. So at this point, I think if we want to go ahead, and I know I can see there's about 32 items in chat. I'm not sure how many have been, I haven't been monitoring chat. So if anybody, if anything hasn't been answered, we can take a look at that now. I don't know if we want to go ahead, Peggy, and let, maybe people raise their hand to see if they want to speak, unmute themselves.
Before we go there, I've been monitoring the chat. So two things. The first one is that the legal notices, they were unable to open that. So Keesman put it in Word and Mariah has it back up in the chat again so that people can get it. So no one had that until now. So it is in there now.
Oh, okay.
Yep. The second thing is there's been an ongoing conversation between Aubrey, Diane, and now Sharon's into it too, about being able to change the amount of RAF contributions. And Aubrey, I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind, would you just unmute and ask the question?
So yesterday it was brought up that it has to be a checkbox in order for them to uncheck that they want to pay or check that they want to pay. But with IMS, it's a modify button and then they can modify the amount. And she kind of made it clear that that was a new thing that has to be approved and changed. So that's why I asked, is Rapattoni changing that? Or are we going to be approved with Rapattoni's way of just doing the modify button?
Well, you'll be approved because I've actually already had Merced approved by Lisa. She approved it Tuesday. So the modify link is fine.
Perfect. That was really the only question I saw in there. If anyone else has a question, you can raise your hand or unmute. Nicole, do you want to stop screen sharing so we can see people?
Of course. Yes, of course.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, anybody else have anything, or are you guys just all professionals at this? I know some of you have been doing it for many years. I see a lot of familiar names.
And keep in mind, all of this is recorded. And if you think of something after the fact, or you're not comfortable talking, then we'll go ahead. You can go ahead and email support at Rapattoni. I completely understand.
Perfect. Keesman, this one's a question from you, from Kathy Hinman.
Okay.
When is the fee applied by C.A.R.?
Well, say that one more time.
When does C.A.R. apply the late fee?
The late fee goes into effect March 1st. So local associations are required to inactivate all unpaid members on February 28th. And then members that decide to renew on March 1st, after they've been inactivated, they will incur a $50 late fee.
Perfect, thank you. I don't see anything else other than Nicole is so good. How could anyone have questions?
Aw, thank you guys.
That's
Well,
from
I should. Oh, thank you, Dawn. Thank you. Thank you. I've been with the company now for December will be, well, actually September, this last month, I actually technically celebrated my 25th year. So I should hopefully know about how the software works by now.
awesome.
Yes. Same here.
Thank you, Sarita. And thank you, Sarita. I want to shout out to Sarita for allowing me to use her software and all of her goodies to do this presentation for you guys.
I have another Keesman question from Sharon. Is February 28th still the drop dead date for inactivating members for zip form?
Yes, it is. Yep. Members that have not paid their dues should be inactivated on or before February 28th. We leave that up to the association to decide if they want to inactivate before the February 28th deadline, but February 28th is C.A.R.'s deadline for all unpaid members to be inactivated.
Perfect. And I put the support at rapattoni.com in the comments. Nicole, somehow it got cut off. So what is the number again for support? And I'll add that.
Of course, 866-730-7115.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to add that, and we'll also have that in the follow-up. The 8, for some reason, when you said it, the 8 didn't come out, and so I was short one number. So
no problem, no problem. And just really quickly, I'd also like to thank Lisa very much for her collaboration and getting all of this stuff. Lisa and Eliza, I don't know if she's on the call, for getting all of these disclosures and the helpfulness with getting all these instructions ready to go. It's been a work in progress, and we did it, and I'm so excited. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Actually, Eliza was on yesterday. So both sessions have been recorded. And as I jokingly say, these two sessions are the most rewatched AM 101s of the year, every year straight.
Excellent.
Anybody else? You've got Nicole if you have any Rapattoni questions. You've got Kiesman if you've got any billing questions. There's Lisa is available, and everybody make sure that you get your billing pre-approved before you send it. Super duper important, and it goes on core standards as well, so don't forget that. Sorry, always got to put that plug in. Save it in your little folder. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much to Nicole. That was great. Thank you, Kiesman, and thank you everybody for coming, and have a great weekend.